Are you ready to hear about the latest comedy series on Australian TV? Not just from us, but from the screenwriters and actors who created them.
About new release films, including one which I think could end up being an Oscar contender.
And about some online comedy series too.
If you are, then you're ready for Screen. We review Ridley Scott's big-budget space drama starring Matt Damon, The Martian.
I'm left with only one option. I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this.
Josh Thomas talks about the new season of his comedy, Please Like Me.
The first time I'd ever been on a film set was the first day we shot this show.
And we speak with Shaun Micallef on his new series, The XPM.
It's not about a specific ex-Prime Minister, if you're watching.
Welcome to Screen, and welcome to you, Tegan. What have you got for us this week?
I've got a great comedy web series about blokes trying to find love.
Oh. I like the idea of blokes looking for love instead of the other thing.
Exactly.
Yay.
It's lovely.
More on that later. The director, Ridley Scott, has been responsible for some tremendously significant films over the past nearly 40 years. Think Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise, Gladiator. His latest is The Martian. During a manned space mission to Mars, a fierce storm forces an emergency evacuation of the planet, leaving behind a crew member, botanist Mark Watney, Matt Damon, who is presumed dead.
But during the evacuation, astronaut Mark Watney was killed.
Mark, however, is very much alive. But for how long, given the precarious state of food and water supplies? When NASA realises Mark has survived the accident...
Mein Gott. Mark Watney's still alive.
Woo! In your face, Neil Armstrong.
Director Jeff Daniels and the man in charge of the mission, Chiwetel Ejiofor, go all out to rescue him.
It's space. It doesn't cooperate. I guarantee you that at some point, everything's gonna go south on you. Then you're gonna say, this is it. This is how I end.
OK, what do you think?
Well, this movie really surprised me. I think I was expecting some sort of massive, gloomy, action movie, but in fact it's a very, very witty survivalist movie that's a wonderful celebration of human perseverance and ingenuity. I love this movie.
So did I. I really think it is an ode to the human spirit, our ingenuity, as you say. I think Matt Damon's got a fabulous presence. He's such a nice guy.
He's so funny as well. It's a comedy movie with him.
I mean, the fact that he records this video diary so that you get access to him. He's not just alone on the planet, not talking to anyone.
Well, that's true. It also gives us access to the science, and this is more science in it than any science fiction film I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He says at one stage, in order to get out of this, man, I'm going to have to science the shit out of it.
Yes.
And he does. He just does everything, but he makes the science believable and understandable
well,
to
this is
to
what
the
I mean.
layperson.
It is accessible. It is not up there. But also, you've got, back on Earth, everybody, really trying
What's going to happen? Will we get him out? All that's going on.
But
and you've got the spaceship as well.
Well, and the ending is so superb. It reminded me of Gravity, actually. But I think this is director Ridley Scott in absolute top form. He's had a wonderful career with a few bumps, but I think, he's back on top again. I'd give it 4.5 stars.
I'm giving it 4.5 as well. Love this film.
So did I.
It's perfect timing for our first television series this week. It's all about the post-political life of a former Prime Minister. In the ABC series The XPM, Shaun Micallef plays Andrew Dugdale, this country's third longest-serving Prime Minister, now retired. He's already spent the publishing advance for his memoirs and now must use his wiles to avoid telling the ghostwriter, Ellen, played by Lucy Honigman, anything resembling the truth. Not that she has far to look for insights within Dugdale's dysfunctional household. His wife, Catherine, Nikki Went, loves men. Other men. particularly Dugdale's Chief of Staff, Sonny, played by Nicholas Bell.
Sonny was just helping with my service.
Oh, yeah. Foot faults, they're ruining her game.
Well, I can vouch for that.
Right.
And then there's his daughter, Carol, Kate Jenkinson, who's moved home with her son after leaving her cocaine dealer husband.
Oh, for God's sake, you foolish, foolish old man.
Shaun, it's great having you in the studio with us.
Well, thank you. It's very nice.
You're doing it mad as hell.
Yeah, Mad as Hell. Mad as Hell is on a hiatus. But the ABC assures me that it'll be on next year in May, so I assume that we'll never see it again.
But in the meantime, we've got the XPM.
Yeah. Look, I'm not complaining. I have two shows on air on the ABC.
And the XPM is still extremely topical. So
yes.
Even so.
Yeah, we seem to be building up a. That's the audience. Is just XPMs. XPMs will enjoy the show enormously.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Well, because they're so bumblingly incompetent.
Well, I like to think the character I play, who is a fictitious ex-Prime Minister.
Yes.
An amalgam, if you will, of all the many that we have. And I didn't want to make him a duffer. You know, I wanted to make him a believable... Like, he could have actually been a Prime Minister. So this requires acting from me. I don't know if you've noticed this one.
Oh, there's acting.
There's a bit of acting in it.
No, you once told me, I was going to get to this in a minute, but you said once that when you talk about acting, I feel I look like a solicitor who's pretending to be a French courtier. It gets laughs you don't always want, just when you want to be taken seriously. Do you still feel that about yourself as an actor?
I do feel like one of the great things about the XPM is that I got to write it myself, so I'm able to avoid my deficiencies as a performer, an actor.
Well, there are also many, many echoes of countless comedians, of course, as well as countless XPMs.
It's very nice of you to call them echoes. A lot of people would say I steal.
Well, comedians are people who steal jokes for a living, aren't they? So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a product of my influences, definitely. I grew up, and am still growing up, loving comedy, and I can see that too. When I used to talk about your generation, and I'd watch it back, and I'd say, oh, I'm just doing Groucho Marx. I'm just doing Groucho Marx from You Bet Your Life. Yeah. Exactly the same thing.
There are bits of Groucho in this too. The funny walk, that walk you do occasionally, where you turn away from the person you're talking to and you kind of walk off.
Yeah, it's easier to do. It's easier to walk like Groucho as you get older, because you don't have to bend your knees as much, you know.
Writing this, you know, it's the fine line between taking the piss and having some sort of reality underneath there, and, you know, letting the audience in on everything that you're trying to be critical of.
Yeah, well, look, I like to think... I hate the word satire. I don't even like it applied to Mad as Hell. I always think it's a word that people use to excuse the fact that it's not quite as funny as it should be. But this is probably small s satire. It's not about a specific ex-Prime Minister. If you're watching, no, it's not about. It was all written and shot long before the last couple of weeks have taken place. So it's not about anybody specifically, although you'll see shades, I think, of our history of Prime Ministers.
Well, the jumbled syntax at times and the intense earnestness reminds very much of Kevin Rudd, of course.
Yes, well, I borrowed that from Kevin Rudd, and also his glasses. I'm wearing Kevin Rudd's glasses, and my hair is a little ruddish. Yes. And there's a lovely green and gold tracksuit with Australia written on the back from the Commonwealth Games, which it's a nod to Mr. Howard, who actually inspired this whole thing. There was a story when we were doing Newstopia on SBS a few years ago. I heard a great story, which is the kernel of this idea, where I think he'd been out of office for about 6 months, and he and Jeanette had gone shopping, and were returning to their car in the car park with their shopping, talking, and lovely tableau, I think. And they both got into the back seat of their own car and just sat there. Oh, that's right, one of us has to drive. And I just love it. I just thought that really summed up the idea of someone with enormous celebrity and enormous authority suddenly not having it anymore. The whole premise of this series is that he has to write his memoirs. He has to write his autobiography, so he has a person to help him look at his life. And it's it's the inverse of It's a Wonderful Life, which is my favourite film, where the angel Clarence makes the James Stewart character look at his life and see that it was worth living. In this case, the XPM's life probably wasn't worth living, so he's very, very reluctant to look at it.
Shaun, it was great that you could come and be on the show with us.
That's the least I could do.
You've had a wonderful career. You're such a brilliant part of this television landscape. I know, it's not a eulogy. Okay. I'm just giving you encouragement. Keep going.
Yes.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
When was it you first got interested in politics? What piqued your interest? And did you always see yourself as winding up as Prime Minister?
Oh, poo. I haven't got you that coffee yet, have I?
No.
No, I tell you what, let's brew one up the old-fashioned way.
I really don't want
No,
one.
come on, I'll put the jug on, we'll have a cuppa, a nice cosy chat in the kitchen.
He's amazing, really. I mean, I think he is one of the towering talents of television in this country.
He's just absolutely irresistible, I think, in so many ways. I just wish the show was a little bit more irresistible. Where it doesn't quite work, and it doesn't quite work, is probably where what one of the characters calls the bad sitcom comes in, where we cut to the other characters and we see these bits of other lives, or we see him interacting with them. I just wanted it to be him and the biographer endlessly talking and him endlessly avoiding having to be honest about anything at all. I love that. Terribly, terribly funny.
But it's so nicely written in so many ways. You know, the little digs that he's got, you know, throughout the series that are clever and witty. You know, he's a very witty man, I think.
He's extraordinarily witty. I've always thought he's like a wonderful combination, a hybrid, really, of Peter Cook, Stephen Fry, with a little bit of the subversiveness of the young Graham Kennedy as well. He's a very, very interesting comedian.
Yes. Look, I enjoyed this enormously. I think Mad as Hell is, you know, brilliant, but I think this is pretty good. I'm giving it 4 stars.
I'm giving it 3.5. I didn't think it quite cracked off the way I think he wants it to. It may improve as it goes down the line, but I just love the sequences with him and Ellen, the biographer. I think they're absolutely stunningly brilliant. Now, we've become used to television crews and the 24-hour news cycle sending pictures from the ground in the Afghanistan war. But our next series, Our War, Season 3, starting soon on BBC Knowledge, goes much deeper than the news ever can, using footage shot by British soldiers themselves over the 13-year campaign.
It felt like someone was stabbing me with knives in my back and my legs, and I remember screaming out, and I tried to move away, and the bottom half of my body just didn't work. And that's when I thought, I'm dead. This is it now. This has ended.
Their stories are intimate and sometimes terrifying. And in one, we witnessed the moment when a British Apache helicopter mistakenly fired on its own men with devastating consequences. We see soldiers barely out of their teens, along with their more experienced colleagues, in the thick of a war, seemingly without end, against a determined and capable enemy.
Graham, I thought this series was really fascinating, actually, because it gives you insight into how naive some of these young men were. They've never seen poverty like they're confronted with in Afghanistan. There's a sense of camaraderie. But the scary part is this adrenaline and how much they like it. And to me, it ought to be, you know, because I'm a pacifist from way back. I think war is the most stupid way to settle problems. And it's scarifying, this insight into these young men.
Yes, and it's put together with really uncompromising honesty. And it captures, as you say, the extraordinarily adrenaline-driven sort of excitement of it, but also the incredible sadness of it. It's nothing like the movies either.
No.
The action is nothing like you see put together in films. And
it's chaotic.
It's chaotic, and I love this one absolutely fabulous sequence where one of the men is shot, and Sergeant Panther, who's one of the central characters in it, really says, if he dies because of you, I'll hate you forever, which is just a wonderful line when you think about it, but nothing like the line that a scriptwriter would have provided. But this is how it is, and I think you get a sense of life lived there in those terrible, well, they're almost trenches in a way that take you right back to through the whole history of warfare. This is what it's really like.
Yeah, and how pointless that was. But look, you know, the other thing is that the technology these days that enables you to get images of such high quality that you can make a series out of, you know, soldiers' home movies.
Yes, well, the found footage idea has been around for a long time, hasn't it? It's beautifully handled here, but it takes us back in some ways to the very different series, Cops, the American series that started about 20 years ago and just follows the cops in their cars as in different parts of America as they go about their nightly, usually, business. And it's become a real genre in its own right. But I don't think I've ever seen it handled in quite this way, except maybe in the fictional Generation Kill, David Simon's series, which uses a lot of similar devices with cameras mounted on people's jackets and on their weapons and things.
Look, I think this is a really insightful series. I'd give it 4 stars.
Yes, I'm giving it 4 too. I think this is terrific filmmaking.
Well, we'll be back after the break with a new film starring Drew Barrymore and Toni Collette.
And we'll talk to Josh Thomas about his new series of Please Like Me.
Welcome back. Catherine Hardwicke is most probably best known as the director of the original Twilight, starring Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, after her impressive debut film 13. With Miss You Already, she's turned her attention once again to women under stress. Jess, Drew Barrymore and Millie, Toni Collette, have been friends since they were 10, best friends. They've partied together, shared one another's lives. While Jess struggles to get pregnant, Millie finds out she has cancer.
Well, is it contained in my body? Yes. Oh, Jesus.
Her battle with the illness puts a strain on everyone's relationships and eventually leads to an event which causes a rupture in the friendship between the two women.
I know everyone's enjoying this expensive meal whilst looking at my wig. No, I'm not dead yet, so let's drink to that. Wait.
OK, Graeme, I saw your face. Tell me what you thought.
Well, I thought, there goes 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. I found this film, you know, a film that really tests your patience. The script's maudlin and emotionally shameless. I mean, it's a full-on, really manipulative weep. It's so manipulative, it'd give you hives.
Listen, I must say that I thought for the first third of this film, it's sort of like my life, you know, all my girl friendships. And then it goes into another territory. And I must say, I think Toni Collette is much better in the second half of the film than she is in the first part. And I must say that I was tremendously moved by it in the end. And I know I'm being manipulated, but I immediately went back home and emailed a friend. It's a little bit like Beaches, I suppose.
Oh, it's very like Beaches, yes.
Which is, you know, was shamelessly manipulative as well.
Well, I just didn't really believe the central relationship between the women. It looked to me like the two actresses had been placed together without a great deal of preparation and had to somehow hope. There was too much laughing and too much grimacing from Toni Collette. I couldn't believe that performance in the slightest.
Well, particularly the first half. I must say I didn't respond well to that. I think Dominic Cooper is terrific in it, you know.
I didn't like either of the men. I couldn't identify with either of the blokes. I thought an opportunity was lost here because men don't cope with women suffering very well, and I thought there was a chance here to show us how these men might have coped more effectively with what was going on. But in fact, they cope very, very badly, which is possibly the way most men would.
No, you know, I mean, I think a lot of important issues are trawled in this film. Like, you have breast cancer, you have your breasts cut off. They're very brave about showing what a woman looks like with her breasts cut off. And the response of her husband to the fact that she doesn't have breasts anymore, her need for reassurance that she's still a sexually attractive being. I mean, really, there was some attempt at getting at some truth about this situation. I agree with you. I don't think it's a perfect film, but I think that it tries for some truths that, you know, are worthwhile facing.
I think that's true. I think it's very well directed, but the script really does let it down, the sheer shamelessness of the script. And it's so predictable. The things you mention are fine, but you kind of predict each one. You know they're coming. You know that she's going to have problems with sexuality, that she's going to race off some young barman. That's pretty obvious. So you're even kind of in your mind, you know that Wuthering Heights is somewhere going to come up, or the Brontes, or something is going to happen involving one of those novels.
Yeah,
and these women just run off.
I know, that was pretty shameless.
Pretty shameless. In fact, the film should have been called Pretty Shameless, I think, in some ways.
Stop it. Look, I'm giving it 3.5 stars. I don't think it's perfect, but I think there's enough in there, particularly for women.
I'm giving it 2. There's nothing in it for men. Josh Thomas's international success, Please Like Me, has finally found a first run home on the ABC's main channel for its 3rd series. Please Like Me explores the world of Josh.
Hey, Arnold.
A character not dissimilar to the real Josh Thomas, given that it's based on his life experiences. In Series 3, he's still close to both his parents His bipolar mum, played by Deborah Lawrence, who wants to live it up in the lesbian world with Hannah Gadsby. And he's also dealing with Dad, David Roberts, who's in a midlife crisis. But how does he deal with boyfriend Arnold, Egan Joyce, who still has to come out to his parents that he's gay?
I really want to talk about bread.
Oh, yeah, Arnold, you should know the whole time you've been talking about this upcoming pivotal moment in your life, Tom has just been furious that you ate the bread.
I'm still listening.
Josh Thomas is joining us now from Melbourne, and how great to have you here, Josh.
Hello, gosh, nice to see you.
Hi, I'm a major fan, you know that.
You sent me the nicest email, Margaret Pomeranz. It was such a delightful email you sent one day, just a compliment for no reason. It was just one of the nicest things. Thank you for that.
It was one of those programs that I saw and I thought, it's great television. I want to know why you called it Please Like Me.
I called my first stand-up show Please Like Me, and that was just me being quite nervous about having to do my first stand-up show. And so I just put it on the, I just asked the question on the poster, and I just sort of stuck with it for the TV show.
What was the trajectory from stand-up show to this kind of scripted comedy?
Well, it did a lot of stand-up, and then we sort of pitched it to the ABC, which took like 5 years, I think. Like, when we started pitching Please Like Me, I was straight. So there was like a round of scripts, like a development round where I descend. And, like, now the girl had turned into a boy, and then we had to kind of, like, talk about that with ABC executives, which is not, like, a very comfortable experience.
It's interesting that you started in stand-up and then you went and did talking about your generation. This concept of a half-hour show is actually quite a leap. Did you work on it with anyone?
Yes, we had Todd, who's a producer, and Liz Doran, who was a script producer. And I mean, I didn't know anything about film or television. The first time I'd ever been on a film set was the first day we shot this show. But I was like it was my show. So we had like a lot of people come in and babysit me through the process. And Liz, the script producer, like sort of taught me how to write scripts and made sure I was turning in like actual scripts and not accidentally like just sending in like a diorama or like some crochet, you know?
One of the interesting things about the show is the way that you so subtly and quite directly at times touch on so many social issues. There are things like fat shaming, rape, drug abuse, sex addiction, male entitlement, it goes on. Yet they're just subtly sort of touched on, and sometimes they might even be just dealt with in a scene that only has 2 lines in it. It is absolutely so skillful, the way that you tune this piece of work.
Well, that's very kind of you. I mean, it's always scary talking about those things, especially because it's partly a comedy and you don't want to, like, endorse making fun of those topics, you know? Like, talking about them in a way that's humorous, that isn't making fun of rape. Like, that's not a thing, that's not very funny. Like, I don't think that's very funny. I don't like it when comedians do it, but then we sort of try and do it in a way that's sort of kind. That's quite hard. I'm really glad, I'm really relieved when people say what you just said, because I really don't want to ever look like we're, like, mocking or being rude.
You've got this presence that is, you know, I've been trying to describe it. It's sort of like wry and self-deprecating and winsome and charming. All of those, I think you're really cute, in other words. No, but I mean, it's magic what you do. Is this you? Is that the you that I see? So many gorgeous adjectives in one sentence.
I mean, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me. I think I'm in love with you.
No, but you're very self-aware too. You know, you're clever enough to know that this is what you're presenting.
I mean, I'm definitely trying to be charismatic in the TV show. Definitely, I'm not that interesting, because I don't usually sit down and think about what I'm going to say as much as the scripts do, right? Like, we plan them. But I don't really, I'm actually don't think I'm in control of that.
Listen, Josh, really the best of everything for this new series.
Indeed.
I love your work. And I know that's been said before, but...
Thank you.
I really
this
do.
is the nicest interview in the world.
Well, we love you. I love you.
Yes, I love you, Josh. It's fantastic, your show.
I love you.
So, thank you very much for being part of Screen.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This right here, what we're doing here, is the loneliest thing I've ever done. Sleeping with you is lonelier than being alone.
Go back to your room, then.
Well, you can tell I'm besotted.
So much love, Margaret. Really, you are totally besotted.
But I believe in this kid. I think he is amazing. I think this series is amazing. I think it's got an emotional truth to it that is astounding. I think it's poignant. I love the fact that the two parents are so accommodating and loving of their gay son. I love the fantasy about the boyfriend coming out in front of his parents. I mean, it's done with so much affection and gentleness.
Yes, I'm really touched by it as well. It always seems to me a bit like Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. He's sort of caught between childhood and adulthood and trying to negotiate the chasm between the two leaves him in a constant state of nervous collapse, and I find that terribly, terribly funny. Mind you, he is getting on now. He's not an 18-year-old anymore. And it's interesting with the show because it was a bit of a disaster on ABC Two. No one watched it. It even incited quite a few newspaper stories saying, why don't we like Australian comedy on television? Because everyone, all the critics, myself included, loved this show, but no one was watching it. And it'll be fascinating to see how it actually rates and how many people watch it when it goes to the main channel, particularly the first episode, which has a lot of, for some people, perhaps for ABC viewers, older viewers, a lot of very confronting gay sex. So it's very funny, gay sex, I must say. Well, he keeps falling out of bed.
I feel like getting out there on the street and beating a drum and saying, you know, bloody well watch this show because it's great. It's really great. This, to me, is 5-star television. I absolutely believe in it.
I'm giving it 4 stars, and I'm urging every single person out there to watch it, or we'll be out there banging those drums. And Margaret will be loving the world if you watch it.
Footballer Wants a Wife parodies reality matchmaking shows such as Farmer Wants a Wife and The Bachelor, all the while poking fun at Australia's blokey sports culture. Sally Bridemore, Brooke Satchwell, hosts the show as 12 women fight for the love of 3 men, a rugby player, a soccer player and an AFL footballer.
I expected the women to be beautiful, but I didn't expect them all to have their own separate personalities. Let's talk about me. Love is something I'm definitely willing to give a go. And if there is one amazing thing I can hope to walk away from this experience with, it would be 1 or 2 amazing, beautiful women.
The most anticipated reality program is coming.
My name is Stephen Papakonstantinou. I'm Australia's next football bachelor. Ladies, I'm coming for you.
That's very funny. Even the studio's laughing at that.
Yeah, it's so nicely written. And Ben Nicholas is really terrific as the footballer.
Is that the Ben Nicholas who was in Neighbours?
That's the same one, yeah, it is. And I think this show did really well because this isn't new territory. In fact, it was a few years ago, Ben Stiller produced a show called Burning Love, which was that similar Bachelor parody, that sort of thing there.
Did it work?
It was incredible. So it was actually a really good show. So this show, the Australian version, had big shoes to fill, and I think they've done it. And I think that by adding in all the sports references as well, it gave it that really...
Well, it's got that jock flavour to it, hasn't it? But it's a very Australian jock flavour
That's the thing. And they've also timed it really well. The Bachelor and the Bachelorette series, they are rating better than they ever have in this country.
Yes,
so the timing is perfect.
Tegan, thank you for that. I would never have found it by myself. And thank you for joining us on screen.
Look forward to seeing you next week when we chat to one of Australia's most awarded television directors.
See you then.